What is up, my people? Welcome back to the channel for another album review. I'm your boy Nassim the Dream. If you're new to the channel, just go right on ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well to always keep notified on my newest content. And today is the day where I review the one and only Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Moral and the Big Steppers. It has been 5 years since the return of one of hip-hop's most loved, skilled, and talented and dominant hip-hop rappers, not only in the current game, but in hip-hop history. Ladies and gentlemen, of course I refer to the one and only Compton's own Kendrick Lamar. It is here we are given the double LP Mr. Moral and the Big Steppers. This will be the last album published from the label Top Dog Entertainment. Kendrick's highly credible career goes without saying, so much to dive into. Just to name some of his greatest creations that he's added to his discography. Before this record, we are given the 2017 record Damn. Now, Damn is one of the LPs that has one of the more less abstract thought and more hefty party track build-ups, such as the track Humble. In my opinion, this has to be probably the weakest offer that we had gotten from Kendrick Lamar added to his discography so far in his career, but I wouldn't say it's a bad record. It's honestly far from that, to be honest. It's just not one of the ones that I'd say that is peaks some of his best. I just feel like what the record has to offer sonically hasn't really motivated me to really endure more consumption from this record compared to his past LPs. And I think this is really due to my expectations based off the past LP, debatably from his most impactful hip-hop record, one of hip-hop's most greatest, possibly the greatest of all time, To Pimp a Butterfly. And if you play the record, there's really not much more I can really say. This record has to be a tale that has been enthralling to its audience, to a world through the eyes of Kendrick Lamar, with some of hip-hop's most smoothly performed jazz and soul and hip-hop records ever made. And of course, we can't leave out the projects that really paved the way to Kendrick Lamar's glory that was really destined for his life, from the records Good Kid, Mad City and Section 80. Now, much has happened in society since the last appearance of Kendrick Lamar, of course, with the biggest major occurring thing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which led everyone to wondering where Kendrick was and what's been going on with him ever since. In this brand new double LP, Kendrick brings everybody up to date on everything that's been going on with him, everything that he's learned, and now Lamar has grown as a human being. In the intro track United in Grief, stating in his lyrics how he's been going through something for 1,855 years, the exact amount of days since the release of his previous LP Damn. With here Kendrick mentioning briefly about what's been going on with him ever since him mentioning that he's been getting a therapist, about his investments, him helping out with his family with his fortune, and buying expensive materials in each stanza of this song. This track encompasses Kendrick with some instrumentals of jazz, drastically switching back and forth into this fast marching drums and lo-fi synths. Kendrick then following up this track with the silent killer N95. First referencing the pandemic, referring to the title track as well, with the first line, "You're back outside, but they still lie." Of course, if it isn't obvious enough, this really goes off the deception from society and its leaders, one going back to apparently the free life after being locked down. While we see on the song throwing in some gritty 808s, some soft synthesizers, and punchy drums, while you're hit with the idea of Kendrick Lamar opening up about these themes of realism for some materialism. Kendrick going bar to bar about stripping off materials such as high luxury items, jewelry, and such, about what it really is and how it's disguising what's actually under the hood. Even Kendrick Lamar throwing some mockery by saying, "You ugly as fuck." I don't really think this is mainly a physical thing that he's going about. I think he's more going about like the inner characteristic of somebody when you really take off all the things that are disguising that. Worldwide Steppers opens up with Florida rapper Kodak Black, whom we see a few times during this record, but in the instance it opens up with a few words. One that caught my attention with the name Eckhart Tolle. Now, Eckhart Tolle is a German writer and philosopher who wrote the book The Power of Now, which is essentially a spiritual guidance book that we see referenced a lot of times throughout this LP. The bigger picture of what this next song really addresses is essentially Kendrick going about his views of hypocrisy of cancel culture, while making a clever yet bold statement of stating the public as these fakes and zombies, but in my opinion, it's just speaking the truth. That we're all not saints and that we're all not perfect, and pretty much all the people that go along with this cancel culture movement are pretty much liars and full of shit. One of my favorite bars that comes from the song goes about synchronization with energy chakras, the ghost of Dr. Sebi, pay it forward, clean out my toxins, bacteria heavy. Which, if you're not familiar, Dr. Sebi is actually best known for creating the alkaline diet and purpose to cleanse the system of all toxins. So this one isn't exactly an Easter egg of the specific notion that's going about in the main idea of this song. This is just a bar that I really thought was very clever. Instrumental wise, this really carries a lot of variety and a lot of scene selection for each verse. Anybody else notice that sample from that viral barbecue video of Fernando Ortiz?
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Die Hard is yet another bop off the LP, more suited suited for a get-together like N95. Track also features Blast and Amanda Riffier. The idea in this song is based off the insecurities and struggles that Kendrick goes through when opening up in a relationship. Through this self-lesson concludes at the end of this track, Kendrick must move on from the past in order to reveal his best self and in order to truly love the healthiest way possible. Father Time then shows Kendrick bringing up the notions of the effects of being a father that is a little bit too harsh on their son when forcing them to make ideals and resulting in a lot of conflict with this child and what it means to be a man. And even though Kendrick understands that not every lesson that he received from his old man was necessarily best for his mental health, he does still show gratitude for having a father, while also saluting those who didn't get to grow up with a father, and especially the women who raised their children without one too. Musically, I really adore the opening keys entering into the West Coast Kanye-like beat on here. The production on the song happens to be one of the most bolder quality mixes onto the record, Sampha also coming up with a great chorus on the track too. Rich Spirits also features some softer, slower R&B experiences debating on the themes of narcissism and morality, displaying some shimmering beds of synths, blues samples, and chopped up melodies into the background, enhancing Kendrick Lamar's best qualities while ignoring all the hate. I really do love Kendrick sharing this on this song, but sonically isn't exactly resonating with me like the rest of the tracks were early on into this. But I'm not going to say that it's even close to bad tracks though. I am still very impressed and on board with my listen to this point. Then we get the track We Cry Together, which is easily one of the most intense tracks that you'll play on this entire record, produced by the one and only Alchemist. And also in the beginning there's included a sample from Florence and the Machine. Later on is joined with rapper Taylor Page, of them playing along as this toxic couple having an intense argument with each other. But I mean like intense in the point where like you're literally in the middle of this argument, like you're like chilling on the couch while these two are just literally clawing at each other, like that kind of awkwardness to it. And to me it seems like this also ends up in like some like makeup sex, which is actually kind of hilarious in a way. I love the way that they tie in the very end of the song though, how it go around with the sound selection of this like tapping around, and then it ends off with the vocal sample that goes stop tap dancing around the conversation, which pretty much in basic understanding, just stop dodging the conversation in order to avoid conflict and to find resolve. Also, can we get a Griselda remix from this? Cause this beat is hard. Then ending off the first disc, we have the song Purple Hearts entering another realm of traditional R&B, posing in beauty from delicate pianos and symphonic violins. Also featuring major highlight performances from Summer Walker and Ghostface Killah, showing great contributions to the record. Kicking off the second disc, we have the song Count Me Out, displaying atmospheres of gospel and substance from hard-hitting trap elements. Kendrick is then seen addressing this person in this relationship that he loves to prove wrong about himself, and then eventually deciding to leave to get what he deserves. Some more darker tones appear onto the song Crown, with noir-like grand pianos playing, with Kendrick expressing himself doing his best to be a great leader to his community, but it's not exactly easy to please everybody. And it seems like this thought really dwells on Kendrick because he's really trying to do the best for the majority or maybe the entirety of the community, but it's just so hard when everybody just has different opinions. But then how about this big moment for me personally, where I found a Kodak Black feature I actually thought was decent. Of course, I am talking about the song Silent Hill. Loving the chorus a lot on here. There's some hard-hitting drums that are just worth dying for, and the catchy lyricism on here is just gonna be stuck in my head for the rest of the summer. Pushing off me like pushing off me like And like I said, I definitely wasn't disappointed this time around with Kodak Black's performance on here. In comes the interlude, which is probably one of the longest interludes I've ever heard. Savior bringing on Kendrick Lamar's cousin, Baby Keem. Opening up with some more spoken word from author Eckhart Tolle, springing up with beds of violins, with Keem rapping about his experiences and problems while growing up, thus leading into Savior, thrilling in some more pianos, warping bass, and uniquely tooled embellishments and hi-hats, diving into more notions of broken society, with Kendrick opening up with how people really view celebrities and public figures as their higher powers, sort of, but like when they're really just human like you and me. This notion becomes more important later on into the LP as well, I'll state that. And I also state later on into this notion from this song becomes even more greater of an importance later on into the album. The next powerful topic of discussion, Kendrick gets personal on transgender views in society, more personally with his family. On here, Kendrick relates to having relatives who transition from their genders, where he recalls memories of always knowing that who they truly are inside. It is here where Kendrick confronts some of his mistakes of him using some of these offensive terms that he would use when he was younger, thus resulting from his cousin, who had transitioned from male to female, staying distant from Kendrick Lamar due to the slurs. Kendrick goes about naming a few reasons of why this could be, of why he really felt like this or would say these words around the time, but ultimately mentioning how the church, who he grew up with, could have influenced his behavior. I guess you can say that way he puts this out is sort of like like an apology or like an atonement for his hypocrisy. But bigger than that, Kendrick is also challenging his consistency of slurs when referring to an event at Hangout Fest, where Kendrick had brought a female white fan on stage to rap alongside with him for one of his songs, then kicking her off stage for saying the N-word, which he wrote in his lyrics. Meaning that if he had a problem with her saying the N-word out loud, he should have a problem with himself saying that other slur that refers to the LGBT community. Transitioning into the song Mr. Moral with some more upbeat hip-hop, trinkling ghostly background vocals and more punchy 808s, with some more support from Tenna Leon and Sam Dew. On the track Mother I Sober holds one of the more interesting features on here and more off-putting from trip-hop band Portishead, Beth Gibbons. With her helping out with the dreary, dark, withering chorus, Lamar is seen here sharing a devastating event of sexual abuse that his mother went through, thus filling her with paranoia that her son might have went through the same thing at a certain time when he was younger. With Kendrick stating that he didn't fall in line with any sexual abuse nor any drug allegation when he was younger, he does state what really made him feel guilty to this day is him cheating on his fiance at the time. Kendrick is also seen on here addressing the possible root of cause for this toxic sex culture that may be from sexual abuse that's creating this generational curse to the black community, thus bringing us to the conclusion of this entire album, Mirror, reassuring the ultimate theme of this record of Kendrick is only human and only can learn from his mistakes. Where Kendrick is here sharing this ultimate message that ties everything that he's been sharing on this entire album, that they won't grow when waiting on him. And of course, he has to look out for himself and for his health and the well-being of his family, including his newborn daughter. With everything that he's learned in this 5 years, it continues to push him to be a visionary artist, a loving father, a son, and more importantly, a human being. Then on this major piece, there is this big main idea that Kendrick goes about when he's going and saying that he chooses himself and how he can't be the savior of the world or be this kind of I don't even know, huge figure, to help change society or just make the big difference or something like that. I'm not sure if some fans have actually gave him that thought that he is that, I don't know, that powerful, or they give that much expectation from him or something. If I'm gonna get my opinion on that, I'm fine with what you're doing now. I mean, I never really had that kind of big hype of expectation from you. That's just kind of ridiculous to me. To me, I see Kendrick as a miracle in hip-hop and one of the best artists I can really dissect and really tune into to really figure out what he's trying to say, what he's trying to share into his notes. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that don't be so harsh on yourself. If people really expect something that big from you, that's kind of dumb and crazy. That's just insane. But honestly, dude, I think what you're doing now is fantastic. I'm not hoping that this happens, now, of course, or, hopefully never. But if Kendrick Lamar announced today that he's retiring, but he needs to do that, honestly, he doesn't even need to give a reason. That's okay. It's obvious that you have a family. It's obvious that in this record that you were going through something really heavy throughout these 5 years. You needed to take care of your mental health. You obviously needed to take care of a bunch of things that were going on in your personal life. This is something I'm always really big and heavy on when it comes to mental health and physical health. And just the health of people that I look up to or that I care about, that I know, or even if I don't know them. Taking care of yourself is the number one priority. Hands down, the number one priority. So I say do what you need to do, man. There's no reason for you to carry this big burden on your shoulders if people actually expect something really big from you. You don't need to do that, man. All you need to do is take care of yourself, be happy, and be healthy. That's all I care about. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So this is a record that is extremely, extremely deep with such significant context, not only to Lamar, but to me. This is something that should be significant and reflective to everybody that plays this. There's something huge with the message that Kendrick Lamar is really burrowing over all these notions that everyone needs to understand, especially through this weird woke culture, cancel culture kind of movement that we've been going through lately, that we are all fucking people. We are all human. Humanity needs to understand the way we build, the way we grow from our past selves is from learning from our mistakes. There's obviously so much mentioned on this record that has to do with Kendrick Lamar's personal life, but in conclusion, there needs to be a chance to get improvement for every single person. Not to just exclude or exile a person for making one fucking mistake that may or may not be terrible. Especially when it's judged by some fucking rando bobando on the internet who's probably far from perfect and probably just like the rest of us. That's the biggest thing that I took from this record. That is easily something that I can greatly appreciate Kendrick breaking down. Sonically, there's so many great highlights on here, a lot that I can really appreciate from this double project, many guest performances and many producer performances on here that I really thought brought some great shine to the record. Cohesively, I will say that the intensity isn't as overwhelming as some of the past projects that Kendrick Lamar has produced over the years, but to me, this is just another blockbuster hip-hop project from Kendrick Lamar that brings him farther and farther from the contradiction of him not being one of the greatest hip-hop artists to ever exist. And of course, this album is not going to be for everybody. This is not going to be for the party scene. This is not going to be for the club scene, you know. Not everybody's going to really like diving into deep notion. I'm seriously blown away that this man can even still do something like this. Like, it's incredible. This album definitely means something. I think it's incredible that Kendrick Lamar can even continue on doing stuff like this. I mean, like, the overall theme of this record is probably one of the most important ones to me that he's ever produced. It has not only to do with who he feels in his community, in the Black community, but I think it has something to do with all of us. And I think this is something that we should learn from this very, very important project. I'm going to give Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Moral and the Big Steppers an 88%. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, go on to like, share, comment down below. And if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. Down in the description, you see all my separate Tracklist ratings for the album, more videos, and also the links to my social media accounts so you can keep with me on the daily. And I'm going to catch you in the next one. Dose.